Good morning, PT on Ice crew. My name is Dr. Sarah Heron, and I am co-faculty for the division of ICE that we are now calling PT Practice Ownership. This is where you are finding the out-of-network course. I am here today on Leadership Thursday to talk a little bit about business. Before I begin, I do want to let you know that our new cohort for the Out of Network course is starting on June 18th. And Kate and I are super excited because we are dropping new course material. So we're still going to be offering the same step-by-step, how do we do this, but we are going to talk a lot more about mindset. And I think this will be a really important change to the course. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope you all are doing okay in quarantine. And I know that I personally have been doing a lot of reflecting on like my business and what matters to me, because it's really easy to get caught up in this space of we're supposed to be using our time to get all this stuff done and make our business better. And that's fine. If you can do that, that's great. I commend you. I am envious of that. But for those of us who are struggling with that, I want to be the voice of that's okay. All right. So quarantine is not, and global pandemic is not a time to have a productivity contest. So that said, let's talk a little bit about sort of what do you view as success in a business, whether that's your business or someone else's. So we want to talk about what does business success look like. We've been talking a lot in ICE about finding your why, and that's a really important question to ask yourself when you're thinking about starting a practice. But I think we can dig a little bit deeper. So I want you to take it a step further and think about what your goals are. So what is your goal or goals for starting a practice of your own? And I believe this to be on a spectrum, and Kate and I have talked about this a lot with our current cohort. Some people want to start a PT practice that is going to be expansive, right? They're going to grow, they're going to hire, they're going to expand. Some people on the other end of the spectrum want to be a solopreneur and work for themselves and work 2 days a week and come home and be with their family, and that is fine too. And these things can change. So I know personally when I started Arrow, I honestly, my reason was I didn't know where else to work. I had been working for other people and it was kind of finally like not going the way that it needed to go. And I didn't really have any other options. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to work for myself. And now my business goals are different because over the course of time, I've sort of achieved some of these success metrics, which we're going to talk about, and allowed myself to change my goals. So first thing that we want to do is think about defining our goals for starting a practice. So again, this could be personal, this could be professional, like you want to contribute to the PT community in terms of the profession. It could be clinical or business that you really want. You want to be an entrepreneur. Okay. And all of those things are fine. And I think it can be very vulnerable for us to be honest about what that is, especially if it doesn't align with somebody else's goal. But important to recognize what you want. Okay. So in defining your goal, then we also need to define what business success looks like. And again, this is going to be individual to everybody. I'm going to list a bunch of metrics here, and I want you to think about which ones resonate with you. Some of them, I think, come from a place of scarcity and comparing ourselves to others. So if you say yes to some of these, you might also say, yes, I do that, and I want to see if I can change that behavior. Okay, so defining success for yourself. Some people are going to have their why as I want to be an entrepreneur. Some people are going to want to, like just work in a different setting, maybe like not have a boss, or maybe you want to do telehealth or be mobile, and that's not an option in your current setting. So you're thinking, I need to just do this on my own. Maybe you want to create digital products, like online programming or Maybe you want to do a lot of blogging and it's just not really available. And so you feel like, you know what, I'm going to do this by myself. Maybe you want to be an Instagram influencer. That's fine. That's great. There's lots of PTs out there that do that. And none of these things need to be compared to what somebody else is doing. So we just need to be clear on our why for starting a business. Okay, so some of these metrics, think about what applies to you and think about if it needs to apply to you or if it could apply more realistically to someone with a different why. All right, so how much money we make, how many patients we see per week, per month, per year, per day, our price point. This person charges this much, I charge this much. Does that qualify as success one way or the other? Social media presence. You may have a lot of followers, you may not. You might not be able to correlate those things with how many patients you're actually seeing or how your business is doing. Okay, what about, is it more successful for somebody who decides they are actually going to leave their current employment, and go all in, taking their practice from a side hustle to full time? Does that make you more successful? It depends. Okay, what about relationships in the community? Somebody that you might work in the same area as and view as competition may have more relationships with you or with others than you. Let me restate that. Somebody in your area who may feel like competition may have more relationships than you do with the people in that community that you hope to have relationships with. But that doesn't mean that they are more successful than you. Maybe they're just further along, and maybe those particular relationships will be strong for you as well in the future. A lot of times we look at our Google rankings and we think, gosh, I'm like on the 4th page of Google. Okay, so Google rankings are important. It's how people find us a lot of times, but we cannot attach value to that. Okay, we can work on your SEO, but it's really, really tricky to assign worth to that. A couple other things, your reputation in the community, maybe your ability or your choice to have staff, whether that's front desk staff or PT staff. Does that make you more successful when you have more practitioners? If that's what you want, if that's what success is to you. What about online content? If you have a lot of free ebooks out there, does that make you more successful? What about paid ebooks? What about blogs? Okay. Your online presence can also be that social media presence. And I think we get caught up in that quite a bit. Number of locations, right? So I know that during this pandemic, some folks have had to close locations, maybe reduce their staff numbers, right? And all of that can be painful, but does that qualify as success or insuccess, right? So again, trying to recognize where there's a scarcity mindset, an envy of others, and kind of a I'm not good enough, if this, then this, right? And recognizing that those metrics might not all be for you and for your goals. Okay. The last one I want to mention is systems in place. So I've heard from a lot of clients and students that they feel that they'll know they're successful once they have all of their systems in place. But you don't need systems in place unless you have patients. And so perhaps that metric needs to be something we measure later, right? Maybe we measure our ability to connect with patients and get them in the door and get them to schedule out. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight for everyone that there's a spectrum of goals, there's a spectrum of why, more than one thing can be true, and a lot of these business success metrics are going to be not for you. Okay, so when we talk about a business mindset and we talk about success in our business, we want to really remember that we're doing this for different reasons. And I think one challenge that I would pose is, instead of feeling threatened by somebody on, let's say, social media, who seems to be doing what you're doing or what you want to be doing and seems like competition, instead of feeling that scarcity problem, right? And viewing that they're successful and you're not. What if we instead compliment that person and raise them up, right? It takes a lot of courage to put stuff out there. And we can tell you as instructors of the PTs you are following that a lot of folks look like they're crushing it and they still are vulnerable about it. And that's good, right? So that's a good quality to have, to recognize that you are pushing your growth, you're pushing your limits to get material out there for others because you think it's valuable at the risk of other people not liking it, not reading it, whatever, not following you. Okay. And so if we can, as a community of PTs, remind each other that you're doing great and your business is awesome, you're rocking it, I think that that will really go a long way. I want to give a little CrossFit analogy real quick. So a lot of times my CrossFit athletes feel as if they need to be good at everything, and especially CrossFit coaches, and even more especially PTs who are CrossFit coaches. They feel like they need to be the best. Okay, that's really, really, that's a high bar to set for yourself. And if that's your bar and you don't meet it, then are you not valuable, right? So if I want to work on my ring muscle up and get better at it, I need to put in the time and the energy to do that and work on the drills and be careful not to overtrain, right? And at the same time, I can't expect to PR my snatch. And if I do expect that, I need to really reconsider what my goal is. Maybe my goal really was to put more weight on the bar, but I thought I wanted to do this. It can change, but it's hard to do everything, right? I think it's a misconception that we can do everything well at the same time. You can do everything and you can do everything well, but you might not be able to do it all at the same time. So with that, I want you to think about your goals for starting a business, your why, and perhaps what does business success look like for you? All right, everybody, hang in there. And remember, June 18th, if you want to join Kate and I for our next Out of Network course. Take care.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.